firstly, for those that do not know, Avin was actually the original guest and the first Casuals popper. So the plan is to grow this every single year. How are we doing from year one? Let's start there.
It's much better. Much better crowds, much better looking crowd. This place is fantastic, this is cool, quite it.
And for those that also don't know, this is nothing to do with Adam, but a little plug where I can get it. This is actually the Toe Wrestling HQ. And if you think that is a joke of us full, you are right, it is, but it is an actual place. And this is the studio, so that is where we are today. But back to the guest itself. I like to plug Toe Wrestling when Adam's around because he's very anti it. So I like to own into it even more, as you can see. But let's start with, again, a little introduction. For those that don't know you, firstly, they should. This man is a TikTok phenom and absolutely smashing on the social medias. But for those that don't know you, just give us a little bit of a description of what you do, please, sir.
So, and I was a strength and conditioning coach. I work with boxers and MMA fighters usually. People like Paul Craig, Chris Duncan, who's fighting tonight, Major Parker was fighting tonight. And yeah, I just make sure they're in tip-top condition and make sure main job is they don't get injured. That's kind of my main role.
A lot of people, usually I think, when they come into fitness, it is more of that typical bodybuilding, personal trainer vibe. Is that how you originally got into the sport, or is that a little bit different for you?
No, I was quite real. I just stand up straight. My first fight was a boxer. So standing up boxing, I quickly realized that you can't be giving boxer or combat athletes the same stuff you would give someone to lose weight or gain muscle. It's a completely different field altogether. So that's how I kind of stand up. If you give an MMA fighter a legs day, they're not doing anything the next day. They're not being able to spar and bump away, and you really don't want that. So that's how I kind of started up. Was just by chance. My brother I worked in the jail. My brother just asked me to show a few of his boxers that he trained, like the main lifts. So I just kind of went from there, to be honest.
It's a good place to start, right? Because I think one of the main mistakes, again, we spoke to Sean about the nutrition, and again, it all crosses over usually into the fitness world because there are overlaps, I should say, sorry. But what are the main things that people get wrong that they take into this industry? So maybe a fitness into more of a combat industry on your side.
Yes, the idea that you need that body upper squat where you need to do a legs day and arms day is a big kind of no-no. You still see it a lot, but today a lot of it would be the intensity of the trainer for doing because high walks and CrossFit are very masses. They think that every conditioning session you need to feel like that. You need to feel like you're going to be sick, but you would pass out, and that's could be further from the case. Obviously, sometimes there is a necessity where if we push you maximally, you will be sick. But for the most part, we're not doing that on purpose. It's not the end goal. We're trying to chase certain adaptations for the fighter, and if it means you be sick, it means you be sick. No, that's not it.
I think it was a good thing that you touched on there because, again, it goes back to what Sean was saying. It's almost this badge of honor, right? And in something like MMA, because it is so difficult and because they are so used to pushing, it almost feels like they're doing themselves a disservice if they're not. Yeah. Is that an issue that you encounter a lot, that you really have to pull athletes back?
Yeah, absolutely. 99% of my athletes, I'm always telling them to do less. It's never, are you pushing up to do more? And if that is the case with an athlete, they're usually the lower level athletes because they'll never reach those heights because they haven't got the ability to push themselves and don't want to push themselves. So most of the time I'm asking them, don't do this session, or we'll fall back on this a little bit. And you will be quite smart by how you do it and how you tell them, because sometimes you make the light of it and just say, this is not programmed for, or they even know it is, you can see that they're tired. And we concentrate on what we call objective and subjective indicators. So things like your HRV, which is an objective indicator, heart rate variability, that shows you how rested you are, how fatigued you are, rest heart rate, another one. And things like that are just indicators that we use to make sure you're not overtraining. It's a massive, massive issue. And we've talked before about people like Hamzat, whose training was very, very old school, and that's why you call it so many fights. He's changed it now and is obviously doing much, much better. But that's probably the biggest issue I see in combat for us to be.
I think you touched on something there which is quite important, right? Because I think it happens a lot in this sport. These things get blanket statement and people believe that you have to do something one specific way. But what I always notice with your content and how you deal with your athletes is it's very nuanced. Is it important to really keep it tailored to that particular person?
Yeah, like personality as well. You want to tailor to their personality. at the end of the day, they're always going to be lifting heavy. They're always going to be doing some variant of squat, some variant of bench press, some variant of deadlift. But what does that fighter want to do in his fight? Does he want to be with Paul Craig? Does he want to take it to the ground? Does he want to be more like Chris Duncan and stand up? What are they trying to do? And that's where you start to speak to other people in the camp, like the head coach, about what are you working on? Well, I actually working on a bit of his lateral movement. Okay, well, I can implement that into his biometrics, for example, which is jump training. Or I want to work on this combination, or maybe work on that a little bit, or he needs to improve his flexibility, his head kicks. Well, then we can settle up on that. So that's where you really need good communication with the other local pillars of performance. They're like pillars of this fight camp. And I'll speak very, very closely with the head coach and usually with the nutritionist as well.
So if I was just to give you an example, right, and I come to you, and of course I'm Scottish in this instance because we're all the world's up. If I come to you and I say, right, okay, I've just had my amateur career, I've done okay, I've gone 6-2, I've had quite a few fights now, I'm relatively experienced, but I really want to take my game to the next level. Because for those that don't know, sometimes, well not sometimes, all of these things require reduces, require money. And there isn't a lot of money in MMA until you get to the very top. So sometimes what we see with nutritionists and what we see with strength and conditioning coaches, sometimes that falls by the wayside for a long time. So this person comes to you and they say, right, I'm going to take this a lot more seriously. How does that conversation go? How do you sort of get a pulse on how to adapt a training to a person?
It starts with first of his feet up and just kind of, I used to do it very officially where I would sit down and give my form and like fill that in and have all these questions. But nowadays I just do it based off of just speaking to her, seeing what their likes are, what fighters they like. That gives me an indication of what personality they are. And if they like Sean Strickland, then we'll make a go to this person to the, if they like Mike Wedge, for example, things like that. And then like, yeah, the financial aspect of it is probably the least important for me in terms of like, they say they don't make any money. That's that. Yes, they don't make any money. So really, I don't make any money. It's as simple as that. And I just want to get my guys to the highest level I can. From a business perspective, I use my athletes as an advertising board for my programs. And that's kind of how I work my business in that way.
We'll touch on that in a second because it is quite interesting how you're doing that. And I really think you're one of the main people online at the moment pushing that and at least showing the blueprint for guys out there, because there's a lot of people wanting to do what guys like yourself, what guys like Sean are doing now. But just to go back a little bit, you said it depends what that person is trying to do. Are they a Will Craig and pulling for a triangle, or are they a Chris Duncan and looking to strike on the feet? If I were to come to you and say, okay, I'm predominantly a striker, I want to work on my movement and I want to work on my power, what would a typical session or maybe a week look like for that bud? So that's using on myself in this experience. I'm just getting free advice. This is all it is. I'm just painting it through the guys that requested, but this is me.
It really depends on your training age, not in your sport, but the training age of you in the gym. How many mean to the gym will go? What are you looking like when we do our testing on that first session? What do the numbers indicate towards? Because that will give me what we need to do. Maybe you are faster than you are strong, or maybe you're stronger than you are fast. So I can speak to work on different things there. And those numbers are what point us in the right direction of what we need to work on. Someone like Paul Craig, who was Bill Guard, he needs to be very isometrically strong. So that's squeezing and that being able to grab it over and pull into the floor. He needs to be very isometrically strong. But with that, builds lactic acid. So that lactic acid, that burning feeling you get. So be to work on lactic acid buffering, how to flush out that lactic. Can't all do that for 5 rounds or 3 rounds, whatever it may be. And that's where we kind of really get into the kind of nitty-gritty of condition.
Just out of interest, what does that actually look like? Because like you said, a lot of isometrics, but that is just a fancy word for squeezing, right? In one position, basically. And like you said, it creates that lactic acid. How do you actually train to reduce that? Or maybe not reduce it, delay it?
So you need to be good at dealing with. That's what it's all about. Like, you're never going to have someone who, well, there are freaks out there who actually don't have a lactic acid response, but that's people that never works. You're going to get good at dealing with it, essentially, the more you squeeze. So whenever we're doing rolling exercises, we'll do say a seal row or a chart, for example. We'll hold it at top position, we'll squeeze for 2 seconds. We're getting used to squeezing, we're getting used to the lactic acid feeling. Then we'll be doing things called lactic acid buffering sessions, where we're trying to incur as much lactic acid in the body as possible to the point where your body's like, holy shit, I need to get good at dealing with this. It just becomes more efficient. I've flushing out the lactic acid in the body. That's really what we're trying to do in the sessions.
You touched upon earlier in regards to working, and this is something we spoke about before, but maybe anyone that hasn't heard it. A lot of the guys in MMA, they always want to push, like we just said. They always want to go above and beyond and do more, and that's usually to their detriment. Just go into a little bit more detail, if you could please, about how, even though that this is your angle, I think some strength and conditioning coaches really try and almost take over. But I think what I found with your approach is very much making sure you're supplementary to training rather than taking over. All right in assuming that?
Yeah, so I'm a very, very small piece of the puzzle. I'm sure I'll agree as well. Nutritionists are more important than SSC coaches, in my opinion. But the main person, the head coach, and the main person player, and we have to work around them rather than them working around us. And it's just what you touched on before about that badge of honor, people pushing themselves to make themselves feel sick. I feel there's sometimes poor coaches feel like it's a badge of honor if they can make their client be sick, and that's really not what it's about. Oh, look, I made the UFC fight. These sections are brown, it must be really tough, and that's just not what we're trying to do.
Again, you've been in this game for quite a while now. What are some of the, like we've said many times, it's still an evolving sport, it's still young. The sport in its entirety is only 30 years of age, I think, roughly. So, and I would say the last 10, we've been worried about actually evolving. Maybe that's a bit harsh to say, but from when you got into the sport to now, what are the biggest differences you're noticing? Because for me personally, just anecdotally, I'm seeing a lot more amateurs now taking care of their S&C. I'm seeing a lot more people obviously be able to study online from guys like yourself. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, the amateur games definitely evolved into more of a professional game. Like you say, amateurs have now got SDC coaches, they've now got nutritionists, they've got everything in place like a pro would have. The only difference now for a pro is maybe they're still working full time. Yeah, and they will fit it all in. But apart from that, I don't see too much difference. They're still the same brilliant clubs. Yeah, beat one of them super drear it is. So there isn't too much difference there. Like, from what I've seen to the amateur pro, one see moving forward is a big, massive emphasis on brain health. I think really important. You see the UFC PI is now laser. You see the UFC now introduced the gun shields. Tell you how many times you've been hitting them out from what side and how much force. And there's been a massive emphasis on next gen concussion prevention. I think that's usually for.
I think you said that, well, we both said that there usually is no money in this game and there's very limited resources, especially at amateur. But there's somewhat of a discrepancy because the standards very much improve it. But of course, the pay rise is not quite common, and an amateur, you don't get paid anything. For someone that's maybe sitting out there as an amateur that maybe doesn't have access to a gym or a S&C co, what are some sort of base principles to know or some main takeaways for someone that would implement their own training?
Very basic. Sprint, jump, throw. If you can get to the gym, it's maybe up with a gym membership. Gym membership is pretty cheap, so lift heavy and lift fast as well. Like, if you're covering that, you're covering a lot, to be honest with you. Obviously, as you move up the levels, you will need to be more nuanced, but essentially, if you do that, you cover it on a daily basis.
I always find in these type of conversations, nutrition, strength and conditioning, the most experienced guys and the ones that have seen the most reps usually have the simplest answer, right? And it usually is always the case. But I just wanted to circle back to what you mentioned earlier about the business side of things, because I think this is very important now, and it's not necessarily just on MMA. But this is, again, we spoke about the monetary side of this game. These are things that guys are having to consider now. What does a business model look like for someone like yourself that maybe, they use their clients as more of a portfolio for the marketing funnel, if you like, to get customers on that? What does that journey look like for you?
So, I realize very quick, but like I said, there's no money in gambling, so therefore, I'm not going to really make any money. Unfortunately, I've got UFC fighters now that do give me well, but apart from that, they're not making any less. I've got guys like Sean Clancy. He's very, very high level cage warrior fighter, will be going to the UFC. He's paying me either, but like I say, I'm just using them as my advertisement board. It's all about social media. If I didn't have social media, I don't think I'd be able to do what I'm doing now. I just wouldn't be able to afford it, to be completely honest with you. So, you know yourself, TikTok and Instagram, it's all about that. It's all about get ties on there. But you've got to remember, like say, you don't get paid well, you're an amateur fighter. So in other programs that are like extortion, there's one thing that's fair. Like you get a program fed that's near me, like for 10 weeks, you're full training up, you know. I think it's very important that I am helping athletes as much as I can. Obviously, I've done VO for helping athletes as much as I can is very, very important to get one, raise the standard of SSC, especially within the UK.
You mentioned there about the content and things like TikTok. For anyone that's sort of maybe getting into this game, what would you say from your perspective has been one of the best, maybe not strategies, but one of the best types of videos or collection of videos which is really sort of leading into that business?
Yeah, just to accuse UFC fighters of taking steroids.
Yeah, it's so true.
They accuse people of taking steroids, it goes viral every time. No, I think it's even important for just fighters to be having a social media presence. It will get you sponsors, it will get you eyes on, and you're likely to get money that way. You know what I mean? So it's not just about coaches out there, it's about fighters as well. You read a social media presence, it's so important. I was speaking to Audie Atera, Pat, who owns Paradigms, from McGregor manager, and he was reiterating that he wants fighters to have a social media presence. As long as you're not posting stuff like what Bryce Mitchell said, you'll be fine, you know what I mean? But I would just get in there, if you have a passion for anything that comes across, and that's when you go viral, like you've done numerous times, is because you clearly enjoy what you're talking about, you'll feel that. So I think if you have a passion for it, just say it.
I think on the surface level, you say there about accuse UFC fighters taking steroids. That's the jokey side of it. The less jokey side of that is actually the truth. All your best performing videos, I don't look are those. But the truth of it behind that is not that you are actually just going on there and being hypercritical. The truth is, in mostly all of your content, there is value at the core of it. And I think a big takeaway for people that maybe watch your sort of stuff is actually providing the value up front, not asking for anything, actually giving them information, helping them, and then hoping to charge down upon it. So that's something you did naturally, or was that something you knew was necessary?
I understand natural, and it wasn't like a game plan. I just, if someone asks me a question in my comments, how do you do X? I'll do a video. Right, it's just as simple as that. I'll just do a video on it. And yeah, I make comments about UFC fighters taking steroids, but it's more from a perspective, health and safety, in terms of you need to realize that steroids do exist in sports. Yeah. Just they just do now. For anyone out there who says, "Oh, footballers don't take steroids," they do, and you'll need to realize that, because I think when it's this underground, it can become a bit dangerous. So I like to just throw it out there.
Would you say that's prevalent in all sports? Because we've seen that obviously in the Olympics, we've seen that in things of that nature, obviously with Russia, and there's documentaries out there. Is it something just from a patient perspective you've seen everywhere?
Yes. There's not many sports for it, with like, maybe not darts or toe wrestling, but real sports. Not yet. Not yet. No, but yeah, any physical sport, but any competition where there's people want to get an edge over a competition, and people will cheat in some way, shape, or form. It's just what people do, unfortunately. And I'm not saying I think that every UFC fighter, I know for a fact, do UFC covers non-steroids. Mine says the majority are, but there are maybe 10% that I think probably are on steroids. And I think it's maybe impossible to stop, really. And it's whether we just say, let's just go back to Wild West days, we're talking about Pride days, we're say everybody could take it. Or it's, are we actually more stringent on the testing so we reduce correct? What is actually safer? Because at the end of the day, we want the sport to be safe as possible. So staple things like peptides, making things testosterone will make sport safer, or does it make it more dangerous? That's what I am there.
It's actually quite an interesting conversation, because sometimes it's a very dirty word and it's a big word, right? But again, there's nuances to it, and sometimes things that are on these banned lists are actually not necessarily enhancing. It's sometimes just for recovery benefits and things of that nature. And you see people get popped, and sometimes when you look into the details of it, not always quite as crazy as you think it is. But just to switch gears slightly, because I know recently you were out in Thailand, and I believe that you are actually going back to visit. How was that for you? I don't think I've caught up with you since.
Unbelievable, like, if anyone hasn't been there, like, can go. It's the best place I've ever been to. I was there for 3 months. Absolutely loved every second of it. I will be going back. How did the sport slightly, because Paul Craig's fighting out Vegas in May, so we'll do that first. But I'll definitely go back. I think it's probably one of these places where I'm just going to continually go back. let's stop pretend there isn't a seedy, horrible side to Thailand. There is. Like, I'm not going there for. I didn't know that. I'm sorry. But you could just go and train. For me, it's the best place all in the world to just go and train. Super cheap. People are super friendly. Weather's amazing. Yeah, I highly suggest.
Just out of interest, how did you, I know we spoke a little bit before, but just for the people listening, how did you actually balance, because it's difficult, right? You go to these places and you have the freedom of being a digital nomad to a certain extent, but there is also this sort of unspoken conversation of how you are traveling and you want to enjoy your travels, but you also still have to work more than a full-time job. Just from your perspective, how did you actually balance the two? Because I know firsthand it isn't easy to do.
Yeah, I don't know if I did balance it, to be honest. I don't know if it was very good at that. Maybe that's something I need to work on and have a little bit more structure. It's about that. You want to and enjoy yourself, but at the end of the day, you need to do what you need to do for your clients, financial. So I don't know if I can answer that question. I don't know if I did it very well, quite honest with you.
I know, last couple from me, but I know we spoke about before, back in Scotland, you've got a gym now, which you built up, which is a beautiful gym, by the way. I'll be honest, I'm not just saying that, it's legitimately a very nice gym. I know you're obviously taking care on that. And you're sort of putting the systems in place to have people come in and work there now, get the 24/7 system so people can it can self-regulate. Going forward, just looking into maybe 6 months, 12 months, what does the future look like for you in an ideal world, just from more of a business perspective?
From a business perspective, it is putting more of those systems placed in the gym. So there's now 2 managers in the gym. Haven't made sure I don't be that for anything. Everything goes via the managers, because although I have like a keypad system so I don't get in the doors and there's CCTV, so everything's fine, you still get messages about the gym concept, of course, all the time. So I won't be completely removed from that. I'll concentrate on my athletes going through my higher level athletes and all these people coming through. I give them as much time, because there's guy Sam Hickey, who's calling a gold champion boxer. He's went pro now. He's got a big few years ahead of Sean Clancy Jr. Another one who's going to be in the UFC, I guess, next year. Paul's obviously probably coming to the end of his career now. Won't be there for him. There's numerous people, Mickey Barker, obviously. There's numerous people that I need to concentrate on, and that's probably what I'll be doing for the next while.
Just to wrap up, let the people know where they can follow you on the socials, which were very active, by the way. I need to also say that before we wrap up, because I think sometimes people see output, and especially the style that you do, and I do sometimes as well, where we just basically have a chin wag conversation. For those not in the local area, we have a conversation about what's going on, and it looks quite simple, but it's a lot of effort. So first, I commend you on the output, and I think once you start seeing people be more receptive. Just something to finish on. You said a small soundbite earlier, which I think is very important. Just answer the DMs that you get in videos.
Yeah.
Sometimes people really have a difficult way with thinking of ideas. But with someone like yourself that offers a product, that offers a service, you'll get 100 DMs, you'll get 100 comments. Go into those and just basically give people what they want, and it comes back to value. But yeah, that was a bit of a side tangent. Just let the people know where they can follow you on socials.
Enhanced Sports Performance on TikTok and Instagram.
And thank you very much. That is Adam Lusby.